listening to the Lawn Care Business Success Podcast, the weekly show sharing proven methods and systems in marketing, equipment, and customer service, educational and motivational, to help make your lawn care business an overwhelming success. Now here's your host, Julio Tomei.
Welcome, Lawn Care Nation, to another episode of the Lawn Care Business Success Podcast. I'm your host, Julio Tomei, and this is episode number 318, entitled Leveling Up for the Fall Season. Well, hello, everybody, and thanks again for joining me this week on another episode of the Lawn Care Business Success Podcast. Really appreciate you guys tuning in each and every week, and of course, for the questions, the comments, the feedback that you guys send through each and every week. I really do appreciate that, as well as all of you guys that have submitted reviews to Apple Podcasts. That goes a long way, and again, I really do appreciate the time I know that it takes for you guys to do that. So this week, before we get started, I just wanted to mention again, of course, the if you're thinking about GIE, it's fast approaching here in for the 2021 GIE, and there's a few weeks left to take advantage of getting your show passes at 50% off using the code Julio when you go to the GIE website and register. So that's a fantastic deal to be able to snag those show passes for 50% off the price. And like I said, there are only a few weeks left to take advantage of that. So if you are intending to go to the show this year, just a great way to save a little bit of money, especially if you're taking your whole crew out there. Those savings could add up. And if you're on the fence, like I was 1 year, I went ahead and bought the passes anyways because of that 50% off, just to take advantage of that, because it was such a bargain to buy the passes at that price. So if you're interested in going to the show and taking advantage of that, I'll leave a link in the podcast show notes to where you can go directly to buy your GIE passes, and it'll give you that 50% off using the discount code Julio. So this week, I wanted to take a quick break from the interview episodes. I haven't done a solo episode in a few months now, so I thought I would take the opportunity to discuss my plans going into the fall season. We've had a very crazy dry summer. We're approaching the end of summer here now, but the summer was one like I haven't seen in all the years that I have been in business. Just and every year just seems to be getting worse and worse in terms of just the days of really hot, dry summers without any sort of rain at all, and just the heat just going into sort of extreme levels that we haven't experienced here on the west coast of Canada. I think I've mentioned it on the podcast before in some other episodes where talking about this summer, how just the amount of forest fires happening, and there's a town that completely burnt down. It's completely gone, wiped off the map from a fire that rolled through it, and it was just so fast that residents had no real time to get their stuff and evacuate. It was like literally, winds shifted and the fire started, heading in the direction of that town, and people had like 20 minutes to get stuff and go. In the aftermath, once the smoke cleared and all that stuff, the entire town was gone. So just absolutely devastating. And it's not just here. You see it all around the world in countries that don't normally experience that sort of stuff, just fires happening everywhere and just crazy weather. That's just seems to be happening all over the place. So here, like I said, the fall season This year is a bit of a welcome. Normally, I'm loving the sun and loving the summer, but this year, because it's been so dry and hot, this is also one of the first years where, because it was so dry that most of the lawns that I was doing just were completely brown. I've talked about how here, because we get normally so much rain, most people don't have irrigation systems, and the old school way would be to, when you needed it in the summer, you would take the Home Depot style little portable sprinkler and put it out on the lawn and turn that on. But because of the increasing sort of droughts year after year after year, getting worse and worse, they've also implemented water restrictions and stuff over the years, and it just makes it more and more difficult because they only allow watering basically in the middle of the night when you're sleeping, so that you're getting sort of the maximum effectiveness of that water. It's not, you're not watering in the middle of the afternoon when the sun is blazing and that's just evaporating. So they only allow sprinklers to be used now in the middle of the night, basically. So people that are using, non-irrigation system, they're not going to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning to go, get out of their comfy bed to go outside and turn the faucet on and stuff like that. And even if you have, like a programmable device that you can put on your faucet spigot for, that they sell, that you can, put it on the spigot and connect the garden hose to that for your sprinkler. If you have a larger lawn or something like that, you'd still have to go out there and move the sprinkler around to cover all the different areas. And people just don't do that. So this year was sort of, because of that long and extra hot summer, I saw just really lawn just getting so brown, so crispy, that, even, properties I was showing up to do my normal, every 2-week mow, I was like, yeah, I can't cut this. There's nothing here. It's completely brown. It's probably actually a fire hazard for me to, put a mower on this, and risk something because it's just so crisp. So yeah, there was a lot of non-mowing happening this summer. So this is probably one of the first years that I'm, looking forward to the fall and the return of rain and stuff. And actually, it was looking kind of bleak, like I said, because it was so hot and dry. There was like sort of no rain in sight. And normally by mid-September, we'll get some rain here, like clockwork happening. And I'm happy to report that we actually have gotten the rain early this year. So the rain happened, started falling about a week ago now, a day here and there. And it's been pretty cloudy and overcast since, with some more sprinkles and showers happening. In fact, it's raining right now as I record this, and it's August the 23rd. So the rain came a lot sooner, and I can already see even in areas where like there's a path where I go for a walk every morning, and along that path is sort of the most non-kept up type of lawn, right? It's city property. There's a ton of compaction on either side of the lawn. It was the first areas where you could see that went brown before regular lawns did, because of the amount of compaction along the pathway, along those sides where animals and dogs and stuff are walking all the time and stuff. And even there, on yesterday's walk, my wife pointed out that, hey, look, the grass is starting to turn green already here. So, just obviously a welcome change to be able to obviously get back into regular weekly mowing, hopefully in the next few weeks, and be able to get that have a real good fall season, basically, to wrap up the year. And fall is fast approaching. Again, another side effect of that heat that we got was a lot of the trees starting to lose leaves early in the middle of the summer because of that extreme heat. And, it's a defense mechanism for a tree in those extreme drought conditions to start dropping leaves because leaves require moisture. And if the tree doesn't have enough water supply, it will start to drop those leaves so that it doesn't have to support as much of that sort of living ecosystem on it. So it'll get rid of some of those leaves to conserve the water for the main part of the tree. So that was also interesting to be showing up in the middle of summer and for those every 2-week mows and having some lawns that were just covered in leaves already. It was like, what the heck is going on here, right? It was like you're in the twilight zone. So inevitably, obviously, with the fall season starting to come, I wanted to, at least for us here in North America, sorry for all the listeners in Australia. I hope you guys are going to be enjoying your spring and summer. And for us here in North America, of course, it's the opposite. And this means fall coming. And with those inevitable leaf cleanups. And leaf cleanups obviously are a huge part of a lawn care business, and there's lots of different ways to handle leaf cleanups. And I just wanted to discuss a little bit about, and just a reminder as well for a lot of you guys I know that are new, that listen to the podcast. You're just starting your lawn care business this year. Maybe this was your first year in business. That, starting to think about depending on where you are, it might already be past the time where you wanted to start to think about, those leaf cleanups and sort of the next season. You always want to be sort of a season ahead, at least, of thinking about, what you're going to need to get into that next season. You don't want to be scrambling when the time comes, especially for things like, if you're thinking about doing snow removal and things like that, you already want to be planning for that, in fact, right? You want to be actually probably a few weeks past because you don't want to be left scrambling once that snow hits and, everybody looking for snow plows and things like that. And, hard to book installations and all that sort of stuff. You want to have that stuff, if it has to be ordered and ready to go and all that, especially during this year, I would say, you want to make sure that you have all those sort of plans in sight. There's been so many shortages with equipment this year. I was talking to my dealer and they're just like, yeah, it's absolutely crazy. Like they said that they weren't able to get any Honda mowers this year. So what they have is what they have from leftover stock, and when I went there to visit just a few days ago to pick up a new piece of equipment that I'll be talking about here, they, all they had in their showroom was like residential Honda mowers. It wasn't any of the HRC 216s or anything like that. They said they couldn't get any of them this year. It was just because of COVID and all of, that sort of delays and things that go along with that. I've heard from other manufacturers as well who said, there's just shortages with equipment everywhere. Sometimes it's just, holdups in manufacturing that, maybe it's just one part or one component that they need to be able to build a specific mower or something like that, or a specific piece of equipment. And those parts could be, sitting on a container ship somewhere, waiting to be received and stuff, but because of just protocols with COVID and shortages in labor because of COVID and stuff like that, that stuff everything is pushed back, everything is delayed. And because of that, one missing component or one missing part, the assembly of those particular machines or whatever the case may be can't move forward. So you're seeing it across all sectors and all types of equipment and products and all that sort of stuff. There's you hear in automotive and all that stuff with microchip shortages and things like that. It just seems to be across the board, just all of the delays and stuff like that. So especially when it comes to that snow clearing stuff, if you're thinking about getting into that stuff, you want to be, if you haven't already acted on that and sort of made plans, you want to make sure you make those plans as soon as possible. If you're purchasing new equipment and stuff, to sort of line that up. Otherwise, you may find yourself in a bit of a pickle if you've signed up clients and you have signed contracts and you're waiting to get a plow or something like that. Then you could find yourself in a bit of trouble there. With liability issues and stuff like that, especially with commercial contracts and stuff like that. So you want to make sure that you're handling that. The fall season is the next one to approach here. We'll start to see those leaves falling consistently, through starting probably in September for most of us. Like I said, for me here, we had a bit of a strange early start to that because of the heat, but still plenty of leaves to fall, especially in some of those neighborhoods that I work in, where there's some very old growth, I would say, old trees, some very big trees that have been there for many years, and they put out a lot of leaves, and it's always a struggle each and every year to tackle those leaves, especially with me being, a solo operator without any employees. A lot of you guys know that I've had my son out with me helping me this year, but also with the fall season and sort of, I would say, a semi-return to normal with, COVID and stuff. Vaccinations and all that sort of stuff are pretty high here in Canada. The vaccination rate, I would say. So, a lot of stuff is going back to normal slowly. It's not 100% there. There's still a lot of cases rising very quickly among the unvaccinated here. But for the most part, a lot of things have started to go back to normal. They've announced that, schools, at least to start here, we'll be back to, full in person and all that sort of stuff, where it was sort of modified, for part of last year that kind of semi-returned to school for part of the day and then online classes for the other part of it. Where now it seems to be, okay, everybody's going back to sort of normal school days and sort of that sort of stuff. And I guess they'll see how that plays out. So it's a return to normal, which means I won't have my son around during those sort of half days where he can come out and help me. And I'll be back to doing solo operating of my lawn care business. And of course, going into the fall, that means a lot of hard work. So this year, I'm fortunate enough to be able to level up my fall equipment and to be able to add a couple of key pieces of equipment, in part thanks to both Echo and to Exmark Manufacturing. For providing those pieces of equipment. So, and I'll be doing a lot of content on these particular pieces of equipment as well. But they'll be able to drastically help me out, especially being a solo operator. So the first piece of equipment is the backpack blower. Echo introduced that PB9010 backpack blower. It's the world's most powerful backpack blower. putting out to over 1,000 CFM. I think it's like 1,100 CFM. Was lucky enough for them to send me one to check out and put through its paces. I have previously, as a lot of you guys know, for my weekly maintenance and all that sort of stuff, I use a handheld blower. I find it more than sufficient for the weekly maintenance. But when it comes to the fall and the fall leaves, the backpack blower is king. One of my favorite backpack blowers that I've been using is the Echo PB770T. It's a fantastic blower. It's a solid performer. It's got tons of power. It's well balanced. It's not too heavy. It's heavy, but it's not too heavy. The other nice thing about that 770T, which makes it a great choice as well, is that it's got a nice mellow tone to it. It's loud, but it's not very ear-piercing loud. It's actually a nice mellow tone to it. It almost sounds quiet, but it's not. The decibel ratings are clearly show that this thing is loud, but it's just the way it doesn't have that sort of high pitch sort of tone. So the 770 is just like I said, it's a very solid performer. It gets high marks across the board from everybody, every review that you read, and it's been around for a while. Just a great backpack blower. But the PB9010, of course, last year previous, the Echo had put out the 8010 again, and very similar to the new 9010. In fact, just a couple of tweaks and stuff to the 9010. They got rid of the carbon fiber fan housing and stuff that they had. They said there was just some issues with upping the horsepower on the 9010 for the carbon fiber to be able to deal with that. So they went sort of back to their traditional sort of material that they use on backpack blowers for the 9010. This made it a little bit heavier, but a solid performer from every account that I've seen. People just amazed by the power. I haven't actually used mine yet, but I will be documenting, obviously, the use of the PB9010, just waiting for, like I said, for me, with the weekly maintenance, doing some trimming and stuff like that, taking a PB9010 out there to blow off some, grass clippings on a weekly thing, I didn't think would be a very informational video to show people. Of course it's going to be able to blow some grass clippings and stuff like that, right? It's not really going to show what you guys want to see. Is you guys want to see it here dealing with Pacific Northwest falls, right? When on a lawn that's covered in leaves and they're wet and that sort of stuff, right? That's where you want to see the power of a PB9010 shine through. So that's why I've been sort of saving that one in my back pocket, waiting for the fall to come around so I can really put that to the test. But that should really help with rounding up those leaves, getting particularly around beds and stuff like that, getting the leaves out into open areas where I can deal with them a bit quicker, and especially on the larger properties that I have, like the farm one that I do. That one last year, there was a couple times where I showed up there, and all I had was the turf tracer that I normally cut that lawn with, and I do mostly side discharging there, just because with the bagger system that I have with the turf tracer, it's that small sort of side bag that attaches, the factory bagger that attaches right to the side, and it works fantastically. But when you're starting to deal with leaves and stuff, that thing can, fill up pretty quickly, and then you go like 10, 20 feet, and the thing is full. So I tried to continue to do side discharging. I have the gator blades on the turf tracer, and I was mulching it all up and stuff, and it did a good job. It handled it all fantastically, but it was just more time consuming doing it that way. And then the PB770 was great last year using that at the farm. But the 9010 is definitely going to be just that added extra power on those big properties like that, is where I'm really excited to put that to the test. So stay tuned for videos there coming up on the PB 9010. I'll be documenting all of that. So I'm just going to take a quick break to hear from our sponsor, and then we'll get back right into it right after this. So stay tuned.
At Exmark, we've poured decades of leading-edge engineering and old-fashioned work ethic into our Laser Z, the pioneering commercial zero-turn rider more landscape pros trust. So now you can experience cut quality, performance, comfort, durability, and reliability beyond your wildest dreams. Stop by your local dealer or visit exmark.com to experience an Exmark Laser Z and the attractive financing offers available now.
Okay, so speaking of Exmark, the second part of that equation for me to level up my fall leaf cleanup equipment is a big one for me. If you guys have listened to this podcast or follow me on social media, you already know what this is. But you guys know that for many years in my business, when I first started my business, I had purchased a Walker MT 23 GHS mower. Now this is, if you're not familiar with these types of mowers, these are out front mowers, meaning that the deck is out front of you. Basically, you sit down on the mower, the deck is in the front, your feet are on the deck, and you have a clear view of everything around you. Unlike, zero turn where you're sitting and the deck is kind of underneath you, and the wheels and stuff are, sort of surrounding that. The deck is in front. That's why they call it an out front. It's a full floating deck. The deck is on springs and stuff. It can actually follow the contours of the landscape that you're cutting. But the biggest advantage to these types of mowers, and the mower that I had back in 2007 that I bought brand new, was that sort of built-in vacuum system. So these mowers are easily recognizable by the large hopper box that they have in the back, usually like a 9.5 bushel hopper box, and they have a built-in fan system. Like the Walker, this year I'm fortunate enough to add a 42-inch Exmark Navigator to my lawn care business, and I'm super excited about this mower. It's one of my dream mowers to own in my lawn care business. In fact, I've had a photo of a 42-inch Exmark Navigator on my wall for a few years now, as sort of that, like I said, the dream mower. Now, when I put this up on social media showing that I had gotten this mower, one of the questions that I got, or comments that I got from people, was that they were surprised that, it's a beautiful mower and all that stuff, but they're surprised that I would add another one of these style mowers, knowing that what I've talked about in the past about the Walker, and why I got rid of the Walker mower. And the reason I got rid of the Walker mower was the weight of the machine. So with the amount of rain that we get here in the Pacific Northwest, at times of the year, ground can be very, very soft. We get a lot of clay here too that retains the moisture, and it can be very soft. And there was, a few times in the time that I had that walker mower in those years that, it would get stuck. Because they have very low ground clearance, just the way that they're designed. The layout of them, and the mower, if it sunk a little bit, it was at risk of getting stuck very easily. And with all of that weight and stuff. And so at the time, that was one of the contributing factors for me to get rid of the mower, was because of that. Because of, at the time, and here's the scenario. At the time, I was 2 years in business when I decided to purchase that mower. I had, my 21-inch Honda HRC 216. And I, wanted to get a bigger mower for those larger properties. And I had experimented with some different mowers, and, some of them worked. They were never ideal, but they were compromises. And I had always heard that, especially through the franchise system that I was a part of at the time. I've talked about this franchise that I was a part of, and most of the franchisees were in Australia. And, the walker mower at the time, that was like the king mower that everybody strived to get. And it was supposed to be the most fantastic mower. And because we bag so much here on the Pacific Northwest, on the West Coast, it just seemed natural that all of my issues with the other larger mowers that I had been experimenting and trying were all around bagging. That, I needed a larger mower, and by larger, for the types of properties that I do, I'm talking like 42 inch, like that's the maximum size mower that I'd probably be ever using in my business. But I needed something that was still compact, because there was, times where that 42-inch mower has to get through somebody's gate or something to get into a larger backyard. And, some of the other options with normal zero turns and stuff where, you had to have a bagger system on the back of the mower. And, those rely on a tube that goes along the side. And, to keep the, mower as skinny as possible, you're relying on the blades, like high lift blades, to cut the grass, to push the grass up that tube to get into the bag. And, if the conditions are dewy or things like that, that can be a struggle. So the next option is to put like a fan assisted blower on the side of the mower. But then now that you're adding, a lot more complexity to the machine. It's not something that can be removed quickly. It needs belts to be, going around the spindles and things like that to power that fan. And, then that is adding, just a lot more width to the machine to not be able to get into certain yards, which then means you can't use the machine. So it was all, very complex situation for me, where, my initial attraction to these out front mowers was that, a 42-inch, it was very compact. A 42-inch machine was like a 42-inch machine. They didn't have, that whole side chute thing with the tube or anything like that. All these mowers rely on they have that powered fan, but it's built into the unit, and it's got the hopper box on the back. The blades counter rotate, so as you're cutting, the blades are not pushing clippings out to the right side of the deck. Each blade only has to worry about the section that it's cutting, and both blades are cutting those clippings and directing them to the back center of the deck, where there's an opening there, and that opening is where the fan housing is. So the blades just cut the grass. As the grass clippings are cut, they're shot out towards that center rear of the deck, where then the power of the vacuum is sucking them in and up. There's like a tube and chute in the back that kind of sits behind the operator, and it goes directly, it's actually part of the hopper box, and it just directs the clippings directly into the hopper box. And as you're mowing and stuff like that, that hopper box starts to evenly fill up, and there's like a little sensor back there that will actually chime a little alarm behind the operator to let you know when that box is full, so that you can stop and empty the box, so that you don't clog up the system and overfill it. So just, very fantastic machines. They have equal overhang on the deck on either side of the mower, so you can go along garden beds on either side. They're obviously zero turn, but the really nice thing, another great thing that I love about these mowers, is that the controls are between your legs. They're not like a traditional zero turn where you got two big handles that kind of fold up in front of you. These are smaller handles that are between your legs, and you operate the machine with one hand. With your left hand, you do the steering. And on your right hand, there's a forward control that just sort of sets the speed. And but your hand doesn't have to be on that all the time. It's not like you're like a gas pedal that you have to like constantly press down. You just push it to the speed that you want, and you can just leave your hand resting on it while your fingertips are controlling. It's the steering is so sensitive on these. It literally is your fingertips steering them, and with one hand, like I say, you steer this machine, and they're just absolutely fantastic. So that's what first attracted me to these style mowers, was just because we're bagging everything. That's what I needed. I need something that could bag in those extreme conditions. And, at the time I wasn't thinking about the weight of the machine and stuff like that. I was just thinking, hey, there's times of the year where it's dewy, where it's, all that sort of stuff. And I need something that can handle, those extreme conditions. And the other absolute benefit of having that whole built-in vacuum blower system, of course, is leaf cleanups. And this is one of the, most popular uses for these types of machines is those fall leaf cleanups. You're literally vacuuming the lawn with these machines. Like, you go over it and it shreds up those leaves with the blades. That whole blower system is vacuuming those leaves into that hopper box, and it just, as a single owner operator, having to do leaf cleanups by myself, it's like having an employee. It makes it so much easier to do. So super excited about adding one of these machines. So the question is, why would I add another one of these machines now? What's changed? What's the difference with adding one of these machines when previously I had used one for many years and decided to sell it? Well, like I said, when I started my business, I had that 21-inch mower, and I had, experimented with some other zero turns and stuff like that. Ultimately settled on buying that walker at the time, and I chose the walker because that's what my dealer had. That's what they carried, was the walker. I had looked at the Exmark Navigator at the time as well, but I could only sort of do preliminary research on it rudimentarily online back in the day. There wasn't too much. You were talking like 14 years ago or something like that. So there wasn't the wealth of information, and my dealer just didn't carry them at the time. So it was sort of the choice of walker by default at the time. So, and I remember seeing some things about the Exmark that I did like better at the time versus the walker. But again, like I said, the default was this is what I can get in my area. So I went with the walker. And it proved to be a great machine. I've talked about, a lot how I love that style of machine. The out front mowing is still one of my most favorite. So what's changed now for me is just the way my business is now. Is that when I initially bought that machine, I was in my second year in business, and I've talked about how, it was a lot of money, and it didn't make sense for me at the time. I purchased that mower. It was $14,000 in 2007, and it didn't make sense for me when I was, at that time, with the amount of clients that I had starting out, that like 90%, 80 to 90% of my clients, I was using the 21-inch mower with. And then that other 10% to 20% was with the 42-inch mower. And I would put that mower on every property that I could, even if it was just the front yard, because that's all I could fit it on. I would do that, use that, out front, the walker on that front yard, and then push mow the backyard if I had to. And it still would help speed things up, especially for corner lots and stuff like that. It was still better than having to push mow the front yard with a 21. But for me, I started to notice the trend of, it got stuck a couple times. I would get those bigger properties, and, the predicament I found myself into was, okay, now, I've talked about how, it rains here all the time. And there's times of the year where you have to work through the rain. And, you get those cases where you'll get a huge downpour and stuff like that. And, you're not working in those crazy downpours, but because of the clay and stuff like that, it can take, a while for lawns to drain out and stuff. So, but I found myself in a predicament where, like, here I've got these clients, they're huge properties, and now, I'm worried about putting this machine on there because I'm worried that it's going to get stuck, and I'm, not going to be able to pull this thing out and that. And, luckily the times I have gotten stuck have been times where just the situation of where the mower was, I was able to get it freed myself. And I learned some tricks and stuff on how to get the machine free. But it was still just one of those things where it's like, man, like this is not going to be fun if this continues like this. And my only other option when, you're committed to a client that you're going to mow their lawn, and now you show up to a large lawn that's maybe 3/4 of an acre or something like that, and you're worried that the machine might get stuck, is now my only other option is to push mow it with a 21-inch push mower. And as you can imagine, that got very tiresome very quickly. And that's where, at the time I was like, I can't afford to have multiple mowers in my business. I'm only 2 years in business and stuff like that. I can't have all these different mowers to select, the right mower for these conditions this day and sort of stuff. And that's ultimately here because of the crazy weather, because of the rain, and that, almost what I need in my business. And that's what I've come to realize over the years. Now, fast forward, 16 years later in business, and that is sort of, with actually a little bit better situation with my own brand and my own company, and not, part of a franchise system, but building my own brand and stuff. I've talked about this extensively, with root density and stuff like that. My root density now is fantastic. So many of my lawns are so close together that, I have multiple properties where they could easily be put on, different days where it wouldn't make a difference to root density because they're all so close together that it's literally like just pick a handful of lawns here, put them together, and do these ones because, they fit better. But, if I had to, I could add this one on this day or change this one to that day, and it wouldn't affect the root density because they're all so close together. It's just like, just get them done. Do this batch this day, do this batch that day. So because of that luxury, what it lets me do is actually, and it's what I've been doing the last few years as well, is kind of taking that root density to the next level, and not just because of my small trailer that I've talked about before, but my trailer being pretty small, I can take one like push mower with me in the front side compartment, and I can take one larger mower with me in the back sort of open area of the mower, of the trailer. But, with, a lot of the way of, the neighborhoods are changing and a lot of smaller houses and smaller tight neighborhoods being built, my truck and my little trailer is already too big for a lot of those scenarios. It's already, something that, some days I wish I didn't even have the trailer to use because of parking and stuff like that, and just having to park far away because I just can't find parking for the truck and my little trailer. So going to a larger, like enclosed trailer to have, 3 or 4 mowers in there at the same time, isn't an option for me. And because of that root density being so tight and being able to mix and match, it actually doesn't matter to me. And the smaller trailer works because, again, it gives me the most option if I have to have a trailer. That trailer is very versatile. I can use it for, like I said, having the push mower in there, but carrying a large mower in the back if I have to, but also that back being sort of open and being hydraulically dumped as well. And those sort of convertible doors that I've built where it has, a full ramp that goes down, or those doors can open sort of like barn door style. And you can have materials in there if you need to top dress or gravel or whatever you want. Having sort of that full dump type back of the trailer. It's just such a versatile little trailer. And I couldn't see using something different in terms of a trailer for a lawn care business, at least for my business. It just works for so many different scenarios. So the nice thing about having that root density is that I can mix and match. And that's what I do. I have mowing routes that I put together in my business where I, will have, for example, my Wednesdays. My Wednesday mowing route is strictly push mowing. So I only push mow lawns that day. Now there's other lawns that are in those same neighborhoods where I could technically use a bigger mower and get them done on that day, but I just have them done on a different day because, like I said, the root density is so close that, they're all in those same neighborhoods anyways. So if by doing just my Wednesdays with a push mower, it saves me from loading a big mower that day. And I don't have to, set up the big mower that day, put it in, strap it down, all that sort of stuff. I can just concentrate on just push mowing type jobs. And that's where, sort of the next step to that would be to even try to get away from having the trailer that day so that I could fit, even more of those compact type properties. Because a couple of scenarios have been happening to me in my business the last few years. A lot of those neighborhoods popping up, these new neighborhoods popping up where it's small, little tiny properties where, sometimes the front of the house is on sort of a busier road, but they have laneway access, but I can't get back there because there's nowhere to park with a truck and trailer. But if I had, no trailer, I could pull into their driveway. It would be easy enough to turn in, but with a trailer and stuff, it's just too tight to turn into the driveway and then having to back out into a little back alley with the trailer and stuff. It just would waste so much time that it's just not worth it. So I turn those jobs down. And then, the other scenario is each and every year, the last few years as well, I've been getting calls for larger properties, like an acre or so. And I've been turning those types of properties down because up to this point, the largest mower that I have is that 36-inch turf tracer. And it's a great mower. Don't get me wrong. It's one of my favorite mowers as well that I've ever used in my business. The versatility of a turf tracer, I think, is absolutely fantastic. Doing flat lawns, you can do hills and berms. You do small lawns with it. Walking behind, you can put the sulky down to do larger lawns. The only issue that I have with the turf tracer is when you're doing multiple big properties. On days where I have done larger properties and I have a bunch of them together and I'm having to do them with the turf tracer, your knees and your ankles and your feet feel it at the end of the day. I'll have just massive, sometimes blisters. I'll have a lot of pain in ligaments and things like that around the knees and stuff just because they're taking all of that shock absorption, going over bumpy lawns and stuff, and just that twisting motion of the sulky on the back and stuff can be, a bit of a, an issue there. A lot of you guys know I have the 32-inch Staris as well, but it's a 32-inch, so it doesn't lend itself well to doing larger properties, right? It's that Staris, the 32, is more for the really tight. It's more for getting into small backyards, in through small openings and that sort of stuff, to do those types of properties with. So it didn't quite fit. And as I get older, in my 46, 47, not getting to remember, and that's what happens when you get older. You start to forget how old you even are. But after years of push mowing and even riding the sulky and stuff like that, I kind of miss sitting down. So, I want to have a mower that I can sit down on and be able to do at least some of those bigger properties with sitting down. So, the biggest change here is being able to, with that root density, put together routes where I can use larger mowers on to be able to accept more properties that are slightly larger, like in that 1 acre range and stuff like that, and not go crazy. I'm not going to do 4 acre properties or things like that, but in that 1 acre range, there's quite a few of those types of properties still around that I could do, and I get calls for them and turn them down. So the Navigator will let me take on those because it's rated at mowing 2.5 acres per hour. So that's still a very efficient mower to be using, the 42-inch Navigator. Now, like I said, all of my customers that I have, grass clippings and stuff are not an issue for me. I don't take grass clippings away. Even on the larger properties, like the farm one that I do right now, it was a family farm at one point. It's now a business for that family. But the original farmhouse is still there, and I still mow. I mow all the grass and stuff, and lawns and stuff that are around the original farmhouse. And that one I think is it's either 1/2 or 3/4 of an acre of actual lawn that I'm mowing there, and I side discharge it for most of the time. But they're always telling me, if I need to dump the clippings, that there's just they have a huge compost pile on the property, and that's what I find with the larger properties, at least around here, because I'm sort of in a agricultural area. Those larger properties are those types of hobby farms and that sort of stuff. So they always have things like that, either multiple bins to dump stuff into, or they'll have their own compost pile and stuff like that. So I don't have to worry about taking stuff away. It's not like fancy estates or something like that where you have to take all the clippings and stuff with you. So that type of mower just fits my situation just perfectly. So super excited about adding another out front mower. And then for those leaf cleanups, it's going to be absolutely fantastic. And the biggest thing is that I have options now. And that's what it comes down to, is that, I don't have to worry about or rely on using the Navigator if the conditions aren't right, because I can go back to using the turf tracer. I'm not going to get rid of the turf tracer. So I'll always have that mower available. So if the conditions aren't right, or things like that, and I have a bagger system for the turf tracer, and of course, it won't be ideal if you're mowing, a 1 acre property with the Navigator 1 week, and it's fantastic, but then the next week maybe you can't because of the conditions, and I got to go to the turf tracer. Yes, it's a little bit smaller. You're going to a 36-inch cut, but I still have the bagger, and yes, you'll have to dump it more often, but it's a fraction of the weight, so I will still be able to use it, and it still will be better on my joints and stuff, not having to rely on the turf tracer all the time for larger properties, and to be able to sit down on a mower and just change it up, right? And that's ultimately what it's all about, is just to change it up, keep things flowing. Stand one day, sit down the next day, whatever I want to do, use it to be able to cherry pick what I use it on is basically what I'm hoping for. And like I've said in the past, throughout the years in my business and as an entrepreneur, you're always going to be experimenting. What works best for your business. And right now, this is the stage that I'm in my business, is, can I have multiple machines? I went from very slim pickings, especially after my trailer was stolen in 2015. I did that whole self-imposed 3-piece equipment challenge where I only had the trimmer, handheld blower, and the 21-inch mower. And I did all of my properties for a year with those pieces of equipment, even the large properties that I was doing with the tractor that I had previously to that point. And then that got stolen. So, I've done very, very sparse in my business to see what that is like. And now I'm sort of on that opposite end of the spectrum of going, hey, now I've got multiple blowers that I can choose from to use for this particular day. Now I've got multiple mowers that I can choose from for this particular day to be what's the most efficient piece of equipment that I can use for this particular job on this day, for this weather that we have on this particular day, for these conditions. What is the best, that I can use for that day? So it's, a lot of experimentation, like I said, and it'll be a lot of fun to see, especially with that Navigator, how it compares to the Walker. Like I said, I have many years of use of that Walker and all these same conditions throughout the year, and I know what those walkers can do and what they're capable of. In these, I always say, here in the Pacific Northwest, we sort of have the, very extreme mowing conditions. If a mower can make it here, it can pretty much make it, I would say, anywhere else, because I don't think there's anywhere else that's going to have the worries and the limitations that we do here because of the ground, how soft it is, the amount of rain we get, how fast the growth is in those rain times where you just can't leave it. You got to cut it. So it'll be very interesting to see. And I'm looking forward to it, just preliminarily looking at the machine, just super well built, so well thought out. Just some of the differences between it and the Walker. The way the engine is laid out, for example, the engine's laid out not in the same direction as the Walker is. The Walker sort of laid out with the engine sideways. And the air intake for the top of the engine, what would be the normal, the screen at the top of the engine that sucks in the air on the Walker, with it being sideways, and they have the muffler right there on the side, means that, the air that it's drawing in is already hot air from the muffler that it draws over to cool the engine, which, in my book, it probably wasn't the smartest thing to do, where the Exmark, the motor is completely the opposite direction. So it actually draws air over the hydros, which is, beneficial for cooling the hydros. For one, it's getting a breeze, but there's a lot of open space there. So it's not like a whole bunch of components there that it's drawing hot air in. It's just that cold air is flowing over the hydros, helping to cool those. But then it's getting just cold air coming into the motor, and the muffler is behind. It's the sort of the last thing in line. So then the warm air coming off the engine is now blowing over the muffler. It's not drawing that hot muffler air, surrounding air over the engine. So I think just a better design in that respect, in sort of the longevity of the drivetrain, just to keep it flowing. So I like that. The other really nice thing that I like about the Exmark is that with the Walker, when I had it, I had 2 decks for my Walker. I had the 42-inch GHS deck, and then I had a dedicated mulching deck for it. And, because I wanted the option at the time to be able to mulch, to be able to, to bag and stuff. But what I found was I literally used the mulching deck on the Walker for 1 month. When I first bought it, I put the mulching deck on it. I used it for a month during the summer when things kind of slowed down and stuff, and I was able to mulch and have it sort of look as presentable. It's hard to use a GHS type mower that has a whole vacuum bagging system and leaves a lawn so manicured looking, like literally so awesome looking, and then switch to a mulching deck where it's going to be leaving clippings on the ground and not have a customer notice the difference there, right? So it was tough, but I literally used it 1 month, and then I took it off to switch back to, because I think I got it in the end of July at the time, and then I put it on. I used it for the month of August, and then, the fall was coming, so then I switched back to the GHS deck, and that was in that first year, and then I never put it back on. I think I had the mower for 4 years. I never used the mulching deck again. For one, it was a pain to switch out. As easy as they are, if you're familiar with these types of mowers, the decks are interchangeable. They have a couple pins and stuff to come out, but they're heavy to deal with, the decks, when you don't have them connected, and they've got spring assists on them. So when they're on the mowers, they're easy to lift up and put down. But once you disconnect them, then you're handling all that weight and stuff, and by yourself, you're trying to line it up and all that sort of stuff. And, it can be a bit of a pain. So I never dealt with it. I always thought, originally, naively, I always thought, I could have the mulching deck with me on the trailer. And, if I get to a lawn and I want to mulch, I could just swap out decks right there and stuff. I was like, yeah, no, that's not happening. It's way too heavy to deal with, to carry that in and out of the trailer and stuff, to switch decks and stuff. So I never ended up switching. I always left it on the bagging deck and stuff like that. So on the X-Mark, what's nice about it is that it has what they call a fill reduction system. So that bottom of the deck where those blades are, directing those clippings towards the back opening of the deck, on the walker, that's all fixed on those GHS decks. It's just all welded sort of baffles that direct the clippings into, because if you want to mulch, you buy a separate deck for it. Where on this one, those sort of baffles have a couple of bolts. You can loosen them and you can swivel them in and out to open and close that chute. So they actually let you, if you have it wide open, it's bagging 100% of the time. If you close them slightly, then it'll do something like, bag 66% of the clippings and mulch 33%. And then if you close it fully, then you can have it, bagging like 20% or something like that. And it mulches the rest of it. And then you can even get a mulch plug for it that plugs that up completely so that you can go to 100% mulching with that one deck. You don't have to swap out the decks or anything. So I really like that. And that's one of the features that I had initially seen on the Navigator back in the day when I was looking to buy one of these types of mowers. But again, like I said, they weren't available here, the Navigator. So I ended up going with a walker and getting the 2 decks. But I think that'll be awesome to be able to just sort of be able to play with that and see how that works, to be able to on times where you want to have some of those, like on the farm where I side discharge and stuff. It's nice because it's a customer that doesn't have or isn't signed up for fertilizing or anything like that. So it's nice to be able to side discharge at times and return some of those nutrients to the soil and stuff like that, so that it's you're kind of naturally fertilizing the lawn and stuff. So it'll be nice to be able to adjust that and still have some of those clippings get mulched up and stuff, but have it at a point where I can adjust it to say, okay, I'm going to bag this much of it, and they have a compost pile here that I can dump, and still be able to sort of get some fertilizer happening on there naturally to keep that lawn green, so I can keep cutting it and go like that. So it's I think it's going to be an awesome fit for my business, especially not having to rely on it throughout the entire year because of the sort of extreme conditions here that I can be able to swap out and go back to the turf tracer when I need to and do that sort of stuff. So looking forward to it, especially for the fall leaf cleanups. Make sure you guys are subscribed to my Lawn Care Business Success YouTube channel. If you're interested at all in any of these 2 new pieces of equipment, the Echo PB9010, I've got the T model, which is the tube throttle. So this is the one where it just has the tube and it has the sort of the handle with the trigger and stuff right on the tube. There's also an H model, which stands for hip throttle. A lot of people ask me about that. What's the difference between, whatever it is, whether it's the 770 or the 8010 or the 9010? What's the difference between the 9010T or 9010H? Well, that's all it is. It's just a tube throttle or hip throttle. So the hip throttle are the ones that you see where, on the actual tube, it's just a handle, but it has no controls on it. And then there's another handle that kind of folds down on the left-hand side that you use your other hand for the throttle and stuff. So I'm not sure. I never understood the reason for that. I know some people just love that, having both. For me, it makes no sense to have both hands working for something that you can do all with one hand, direct the tube, where you want the wind or the air to blow, while also using your finger to pull the trigger on, all on one side. It makes, the most sense to me than having to do that. But hey, to each his own. Some people like the other version. But that's the thing. So if you're interested in all, make sure you go ahead, YouTube, hit that subscribe button. Lawn Care Business Success is the channel, of course, same as the podcast here. And check it out. I'll have a bunch of videos coming up here through the fall on that Echo PB9010, as well as the Exmark Navigator. And this Navigator is a 2021 model. It was manufactured here in May. It's the most recent version of this mower. If you're interested, if been thinking about that, or you're on the fence between maybe thinking about a walker or a Navigator, if you've never used one before, you want sort of a first-hand opinion from somebody who has used both, well, then I'm your guy. I've had that walker for many years, and now, going to the Exmark, and we'll see what that, how the performance is with this one, and I'll let you guys know, and let you know what I think, what I like about either system. I can already sort of see that, between the two machines, there are some differences that are catered to different types of people, but I'll get into that, or different businesses, and we'll get into that in the videos. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Make sure you guys level up your equipment here for the fall early, and particularly for the snow season. If you're going to be doing that, start planning all that stuff yesterday, especially this crazy year with the shortages and stuff that we're seeing across the industry with equipment. And of course, if you're thinking about the GIE for 2021, take advantage of those 50% off discount coupon, code Julio. Link is in the podcast show notes. And, if you enjoy this episode as well, or if you enjoy the interview episodes, make sure you drop me a review on iTunes. I really do appreciate it. So that's it for this one, guys. Here's to wishing you guys all overwhelming success and freedom in your lawn care business. Bye for now.